Donald Trump just got weirder than usual, and I know that doesn't sound possible. He traveled down to South Florida for an event that, of course, was all about him. And during it, he not only flirted with one of his own advisors, he insulted her in the same sentence and then grabbed her after the ceremony. Yes, it was weird. It's gotten weirder, and we're going to get into all of it. But before we do, if you could quickly leave a like on this video and subscribe if you enjoy the channel, that goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, if you watched my earlier videos today, you know Trump was in a rush to flee the White House, literally shutting down a meeting early because he had a self-congratulatory trip scheduled in South Florida. And here's the headline that sums it up. Trump cuts off work early to name a road after himself. He flew to Palm Beach to rename a 4-mile stretch of Southern Boulevard as President Donald J. Trump Boulevard. Markers are being put up between Palm Beach International Airport and Mar-a-Lago, so that, in true Trump fashion, even the road to his private club honors him. Most presidents wait until after their tenure to get something named after them, but Trump isn't leaving anything to chance. Trump has been pretending to care about healthcare lately, not by actually doing anything, but by holding endless briefings filled with empty catchphrases. He announced from the Oval Office that he had a great new plan, then immediately rushed through the follow-up briefing, telling reporters to wrap it up because he was so desperate to get to Florida for this ceremony. He literally gave people 1 minute to finish questions so he could go admire his new street signs. And while we're on it, Trump absolutely does not deserve MLK Jr. Day off. Honestly, if I were in charge, conservatives would have to work extra on that day. If you wouldn't have supported the civil rights movement when it mattered, and let's be real, none of these MAGA diehards would, you don't get the day off. Trump certainly hasn't earned it, yet here he is using the holiday weekend to travel on the taxpayer's dime, eat hamburgers, golf, and bask in the glow of a road named after himself. That's why he bailed on D.C. early. He was supposed to be talking about rural healthcare and hospital closures, problems he's actively making worse, and instead said, let's wrap this thing up, because he wanted to rush down to a bizarre little press conference where he could simultaneously flirt with and insult one of his top aides while bragging about how wildly successful he claims to be.
You're doing good. How are the polls doing? Pretty good? It's a blowout, but let's not say that. Let's say you're winning by 1 or losing by 1. Doesn't make any difference. Get them out to vote, right? It was an honor to endorse you, and congratulations. Doing a great job. And I want to thank Ron, too, because Ron has been really behind this with Meg and everybody else, and we did have his back at 100%, and I appreciate it. And it's a great honor. Thank you very much. See you.
I would genuinely love to know which polls Donald Trump is looking at, because not only has he never been more unpopular, but the things he's staking his political identity on are also more unpopular than ever. ICE has historically low approval among Americans, especially after the killing of Renee Good, and Trump keeps insisting this is his big winning message for 2024. Immigration and the economy are supposedly his core strengths, yet he has record low approval on both. Whether it's the direction of the economy, prices, outlook, or jobs, it's all down for Trump across the board. And when those are the numbers, the man has to lie, and lie he did. He bragged about how much money he supposedly brought in from overseas trips, especially from the Middle East. None of that is real. The investment he keeps talking about isn't happening, but the willingness to open himself up to bribery absolutely is, and some people have a problem with that. One of them is Laura Loomer, which is why Trump managed to both flirt with her and insult her in the exact same breath in the clip you're about to see.
Hi, Laura. Boy, you are something. What spirit you have. Laura Loomer, thank you, honey, for being here. Appreciate it. She's, she can be a little nasty, but to me, she's always nice. So that's all that matters. I want her to stay that way, too.
Okay, that was weird. And honestly, Laura Loomer has been orbiting Trump for a while now. She's in and out of the White House, into the Oval Office, on his plane, before and after debates. Remember that week where it felt like the Laura Loomer channel took over MAGA entirely? So yes, there was definitely flirting, but there was also Trump trying to put her in her place. He bragged about how much money he supposedly brought in from Qatar and the broader Middle East, and if you remember, Loomer was one of the loudest voices furious about Trump cozying up to Gulf governments. She spent weeks roasting him for Qatar tongue baths, as one headline put it. So Loomer hasn't always been thrilled about Trump's Qatari friendships, especially now that we have $500 million from Venezuelan oil sales sitting in a Qatari bank account. We've covered this before, but it deserves way more attention. Trump is literally moving Venezuelan oil money into Qatar as if he's parking a personal fund there. Maybe that's why he suddenly switched into charm mode with Loomer. Because right after the speech, he grabbed her, hugged her, kissed her twice, and laid on the compliments in a way that was deeply intimate and deeply strange. "You're so lovely, Laura," he said, which would have been a normal compliment if he hadn't immediately launched into a Botox monologue about her face, then dragged Carolyn, Christie, and half the Trump Women's Auxiliary into the insult. It was peak Trump. Flirt, negging, plastic surgery commentary, and then a weird backhanded, "let me take a look at you." It was almost jarring to see in public. And here's the part that makes Laura Loomer's skepticism make sense. Trump is openly selling Venezuelan oil and putting the proceeds in a foreign bank for himself, not for the United States. And the only reason to do that is if you think someone is going to seize it, freeze it, or convert it into crypto for you later. Why wouldn't you keep that in an American bank? Trump himself has basically said he prefers being outside the reach of U.S. law when it comes to Venezuela. He's practically bragging about operating just beyond the legal frame.
We're dealing with the new president. We're dealing with a lot of the people that were running the country, and they had, our first thing is they said, we have 50 million barrels. Hard to believe, Eric. I said, is there such a thing as 50 million barrels? 50 million barrels of oil, and we have to get it processed immediately because we have no room. Will you take it? I said, we'll take it. I didn't have to consult with anybody on that. I didn't have to call up our great attorney general. I said, we will take it. And it's the equivalent of $5.2 billion. That was the first day. And it's now traveling nicely to the United States. And
He's bragging. He's literally saying, we don't do the law anymore. And then he casually adds, I don't even ask Pam, which is a pretty brutal dig at Pam Bondi. Basically, she's useless and he doesn't care what she thinks. And on that point, I'll admit Trump and I agree, Pam Bondi has been astonishingly useless and feckless throughout all of this. And that's reportedly what Republicans are saying behind the scenes too. But the bottom line is that Trump is openly admitting he has zero regard for the law. I don't know if anybody needed verbal confirmation at this point. He's demonstrated it 1,000 times, but he's now saying it out loud. When he told the New York Times he's guided only by his own morality, which is an oxymoron of galactic proportions, he meant it. Donald Trump won't stop unless he is forced to. That has always been the truth, which is why Republicans acting shocked now that Trump is literally floating an invasion of Greenland is so ridiculous. Congressman Don Bacon and others suddenly found a red line, saying impeachment would be on the table if Trump moved forward with it. If that's really how they feel, then maybe speak up a little louder, maybe intervene before he tries to annex another country, maybe stop pretending he can exist outside the law whenever he wants. And here's the kicker. None of this is even working for him. It's not making him more popular. He'll insist otherwise, of course, but the polling says something very different.
It works great. So because of that, we have more things happening than we've ever had, and I think you're going to see an explosion. You already see it, in all fairness, but this next year could be just an explosion of success.
Trump keeps promising an explosion of success, as if repeating it will make it real. What exactly is supposed to deliver that? Another year of tariffs in 2026? That's not going to magically fix the economy. Appointing some loyalist stooge to the Federal Reserve? Also not going to help. Things are getting worse across the board, and a huge part of it traces directly back to Trump's policies and his obsession with theatrics instead of governance. Democrats are finally starting to call that out in clear, direct language. Josh Shapiro certainly did when he went on CNN today.
About the present, unemployment is up in your state, 4.2%. It's up everywhere. Grocery prices are also up 8% from last year. That's above the national average in Pennsylvania. Home and rental prices are up. How much control do you have as governor over those things?
Well, Katie, I should point out that our unemployment rate in Pennsylvania for 30 straight months has been below the national rate.
That is true.
And that's because our economy is growing. What you didn't mention is the fact that we have the only economy in the northeastern part of the United States that is growing. All of the other economies are either stable or declining. We've created, on my watch, over 20,000 new jobs that are tied directly to over $35 billion in economic development that we brought to this Commonwealth. And in about another week or so, we're going to have another major announcement that's going to create lots of jobs and billions of dollars in economic investment. It is clear that we're doing the right things in Pennsylvania. making investments, cutting taxes 7 times on my watch. It is also clear that the Trump policies are making things cost more. The price of beef, the price of bread, the price of some dairy products are up over 20%, in large measure due to the president's failed tariff policies. Our farmers are struggling. Markets are being shut to them, and things that they need to be able to operate their farms, like soybean feed, for example, costs a whole lot more because of the president's tariffs. The White House acknowledged that when they agreed to give a handout to farmers to offset the costs on these farmers from these tariffs. I talked to a lot of farmers. I was talking with them just a couple days ago. They do not want a handout. They just want to simply produce their crops, their dairy, their poultry, you name it, and they want to sell it to more and more markets. Their lives are being made more difficult because of the president's failed economic policy.
You know,
so
I've had those
while we are making progress, the White House is making it far harder for Pennsylvanians to get by.
More governors need to be loud about this and make it clear that Donald Trump is effectively operating the economy by himself, and he's running it straight into the ground. Democrats should also be explicit about the flip side of that argument. If Trump alone can shape the economy to benefit corporations and wealthy allies, then we can pursue big structural changes that actually improve material conditions for working people. If CEOs can bend the knee to Trump, then corporations can certainly pay their fair share in taxes, loopholes can be closed, monopolies can be broken up, and abusive business practices can be shut down. We can remake this country in a way that works for ordinary people, not just the elites Trump caters to. That's the kind of structural change we're going to keep talking about on this channel, and if you want to support that conversation, hit the subscribe button and leave a like on the video. If you made it to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments so I know you're here. Keep fighting, don't let them silence you, and I'll see you soon.